another episode of Agents of M.A.C.E. Today you have me, Drew, and Elisa. We're going to be talking about Thor. I forgot Thor Ragnarok. I was like, I couldn't think of the name of the movie. We're going to be talking about Ragnarok, Infinity War, and Endgame, and kind of the role that Loki plays in all of those, leading up to the Loki series, which is inching closer day by day. Can't wait for Wednesdays. Before we jump into that, we are going to jump back to last week because we have a extra piece for our fact check that that I didn't notice and that Elisa found. So take it away with our new fact checked fact.
Okay. So in our fact check, we said that in the comics, Loki had always been presented as Thor's adopted brother. But I had said in the episode that I could have swore I read in one of the very, very, very old issues him being referred to as Thor's half-brother. And after we did the fact check, I went because I knew where I had read it. If you go and you get the collection of all of the Vote Loki arc, it includes a few of those really, really old comics, like Loki's first appearance in Thor, and I think the other one was an Avengers comic. Yeah, it was Avengers. And it was in that Avengers one that he said that Thor was his half-brother. And I was like, oh!
Yeah, so we needed to amend that. When I was looking it up, I looked on like the Marvel Wiki and whatever you want to call regular Wikipedia. I guess it's just Wikipedia. But
Wiki.
Yeah, Wiki. And I didn't see anything on there about half-brother, but that's really cool that is thrown in there. And it makes me wonder, is Loki being sneaky? And like, we just don't know. I don't know. I think Loki's...
Or had they just not quite decided?
Yeah. That's probably more realistic. All right, well, let's jump into the movies. I don't know what order everyone watched everything in, but assuming chronological order, we'll start with Thor Ragnarok.
Yay.
This is, it's so good. It's such a good movie.
It is.
Like, the tone is like still that Disney, Marvel, fun adventure tone, but like upped by like 3 levels. And all the colors are great. The music is great. All the acting is great. I love like the new revamped Thor that we get with Thor Ragnarok, where it's like more fun Thor as opposed to like serious brooding Thor, which, like, come on, save that stuff for DC stuff. We don't need that in our Marvel movies. We want fun, exciting action heroes. So
yeah, Zack Snyder, you keep your brooding over there.
Yeah, keep all your dark colors. We don't need it. But I love this movie. I love how it starts, like right off the bat. We're getting Thor coming back. Well, he beats... Man, I can't remember his name.
Hang on, I've got it written. I hate that I'm having to look.
I feel like it starts with an S, I think. Surtur?
Surtur, yeah, Surtur, that's it. Surtur.
So he beats Surtur and gets his crown and is bringing it back to throw into the Asgard collection. And when he gets back, he sees this play that's happening of Loki's death. And I mean, at this point in the movie, when I saw the people they got to be in this play, it blew me away. I was like, we went from like star-studded Marvel cast to like double that. We have, Matt Damon. Yeah, Matt Damon.
Yeah, Matt Damon.
Matt Damon shows up. He's playing Loki. I can never remember his name, but the guy that plays Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park is playing Odin. It's just like, wow, oh my God, like, here are these huge names in a play, in a movie.
And if I'm not mistaken, the one playing Thor is Chris Hemsworth's brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, his brother. I think it's Luke. I think that one is Luke.
Yeah, which is just like, it was great. what perfect casting for this like cast inside of a casted movie, but it's really funny to get to see that, and it's almost like this movie doing this play, they're kind of picking on the reference material for the play, which I thought was kind of funny, making it very like drawn out and Shakespearean. But oh my gosh, it's such a strong start to the movie that there's no way the movie can only go up from there. It's just like bam, cool thing, bam, cool thing.
Really. And in my headcanon, Loki kidnapped the real Matt Damon to make him do it's like a brainwashing scenario where he'll just plonk him back on Earth and that'll be the end.
I will say it is kind of weird how when Loki reveals himself to not be Odin, but to actually be Loki, the people in Asgard aren't that concerned. They're just kind of like, oh yeah, okay.
He's probably done it at least 3 times before this.
True. But I feel like my first thought would be like, well, hold on. If you're Loki, where's Odin?
That's a fair concern.
No one seems to care except for Thor. And on top of that, I still don't understand the importance that they put on Heimdall being able to see everything, but he can't ever see all of Loki's tricks.
Well, Loki's a very powerful magician. He can block all that kind of stuff. And even whenever Odin comes out of, I guess his haze once he's on Earth, he congratulates Loki and says that his mother would have been very proud of that spell that he put on him. So Loki's very powerful. And this is one of the complaints that I've seen about Ragnarok is that Loki doesn't do a lot of magic in it. Yes, he does. He totally does.
I want to be more on the side of that, but when they go to Earth and Loki doesn't even know where Odin is, it's like, well, wouldn't Heimdall have been able to see where Odin went if Loki doesn't even know where Odin is? I don't know. I think that's the only like plot hole that I pick apart every time I watch the movie, but it's small. I think it's great that we get to kind of go almost straight into them being like launched into outer space essentially, which is an exciting way to think of the Bifrost as just kind of like, oh, if you fall out of it, it just leaves you somewhere in space. And I always thought it was funny that we see Thor kind of tumble out. Loki got out of it before Thor did, but not really that much longer before Thor got out of it.
But enough, because he says he's been on Sakaar for months whenever Thor gets there.
Which is crazy, the like time difference. And that's what I was going to say. It's funny that we see Loki, like when Thor goes through all of the initiation process of being found as a champion, we see Loki just hanging out, making
Loki's
friends.
having a great time on Sakaar.
He's living it up, living the high life. So I want to know, I wish that was something that maybe they could touch on in the Loki series, is like, what did Loki do for those however many months he was there to get to the point where he was just hanging out with all of the elite?
I was about to say, hanging out with alien chicks seems to be a good chunk of it. But also, how did he get into like the Grandmaster's graces? They don't tell exactly. He just says that he's made him his friend. And we know that the Grandmaster is just kind of a creep and is like weirdly into Loki. But that would be something else that I would like to see like actually play out. Like what happened.
Right. Yeah, because it's not even like a friendly, like, hey, we know each other. It's like, hey, you're going to sit in my private box with me as we watch the match happen.
But also go do my dirty work later whenever the Hulk escapes.
Yeah. You're my right-hand man somehow. Well, we get to see the Beta Ray Bill appearance on the side of the tower, which was exciting. A fun little Easter egg that they threw in there. So I'm wondering, since that's kind of that's supposed to be all of the previous champions, I wonder if when we see Beta Ray Bill in Love and Thunder,
if he's there, We don't know.
True. If he appears in Love and Thunder, which I hope he does, I wonder if he's going to touch on the fact that maybe he was a previous champion. I don't know. That's just like a fun little thing that I think it'd be neat for them to throw in there, just to be a callback to, hey, remember we put him on the side of the building.
Wasn't Thanos also on the side?
I don't know.
I think one of the faces was Thanos.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. I mean, Thanos gets around, does his thing.
Fact check.
Once we kind of get into them, like he and Thor and Hulk talking after they have their fight, Thor kind of gets cheated out of winning. Once they kind of connect and start talking again, it is a lot of fun to see this kind of like, I don't know, they took Hulk and made him more, I don't know, just like they did with Thor. They made him more fun, made him a little bit more lighthearted. He has a bunch of funny like one-liners that he throws out there that it's just like, oh, this is the movie that I've wanted for so long. Just like two superpowered meathead idiots like connecting on this like weird spiritual journey to help each other, you know, get back something that was lost, where, you know, Hulk was essentially banished from Earth, and he's kind of dealt with that by just not changing back into Banner and staying Hulk. And Thor lost his hammer, his brother, sort of, his dad, all of Asgard, essentially. So there's a lot. I feel like there's a lot of heavy stuff going on in the background, but meanwhile, we're still getting like these fun, lighthearted moments with the characters.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, this movie is, by my estimation, it's the funniest movie in the MCU. I mean, I think it kind of barely edges out Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's hysterical. I remember leaving the theater like physically in pain because I'd been laughing so hard at the whole thing. And of course, a good chunk of that comes from Chris Hemsworth, whom I'm really glad that they discovered at some point is very, very funny. Like he gets some good moments in the first two Thor movies and in Avengers and stuff. But this is where I feel like he really kind of comes into his own in as Thor. Or maybe at this point, Thor has just fully merged with Chris Hemsworth, and now their personalities are basically the same. And maybe that's the case with Mark Ruffalo, where he's playing Banner in a different way than he has before. Or again, maybe it's just kind of given that leeway with Taika Waititi kind of running things.
Yeah, and I see it with Loki too. I think this movie really sets him apart, whereas in the last couple movies, we've kind of seen him go from just Loki in Thor to kind of more mischievous, but a little bit more like a caring character of Loki in the second Thor movie, to now like full blown, you're like, okay, I get it. He's all about chaos and doing his own thing, but he also like, I mean, it's his brother, it's his family. He like kind of cares. He's like a teenager, right? Like, you hate to love your family. So I don't know. I really enjoy what they did with him in this movie as well.
Yeah.
I thought there were a lot of like fun moments between the two of them, especially when they're trying to escape the facility and they do what's he call it?
Get help.
Yeah, that's, I mean, perfect brotherly bond.
Have you seen that was more or less like an improv? They just came up with that the day that they were shooting it.
Oh, no. But that's hilarious. I mean, that's I kind of want to know like what was their plan beforehand. I guarantee it wouldn't have been as good, but I want to know like what was their plan then? Were they just supposed to walk out?
They said that whole section of dialogue just changed up a bit as they were filming. Like originally it was, if I'm remembering correctly, it just kind of jumped from location to location to location to location. And then that was just kind of a fun gag that they came up with on that day, breaking up this conversation that they were having. And I think that they said it was originally, the line was that they were going to do dead fish.
Dead fish.
And so, yeah, that was something that they could kind of put together. Just like the snake story was apparently also an improv thing where they just told Chris Hemsworth to tell different versions of a story that happened whenever they were young, and he came up with that.
Well, I mean, they're both very talented, and I think that especially under the guidance of Taika Waititi, I mean, there's no way that wasn't going to be gold.
How funny is Taika Waititi in this movie playing Korg?
Oh, he's amazing. Korg easily became one of my top Marvel characters. I mean,
Yes.
I had watched Planet Hulk, the animated Planet Hulk movie, not super far before we went and saw Ragnarok, and the whole time I was like, oh, Korg's like a cool character. And I remember in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I believe, when they're like going through all the portals in space and they like cross over a planet where there's two alien beings fighting each other. It kind of looks like Korg, and so that's what I thought, that maybe that was like a hint. And I was like, oh, Korg, cool, he's from Planet Hulk. And then when we watched this movie, I was like, oh, it was better than I could have imagined. Like, just perfect. When he like runs and kicks the wall after Loki is like pops up and talks to him, and he's like, piss off, ghost. I was like, oh my god, the best character. He's so funny.
Yeah, he's so good. And I think part of it is that I find, and I was just going to say that I think that New Zealanders' accents are inherently kind of hilarious, which is big talk coming from me.
Well, I think he knows comedy, and like any of the movies that he's directed have been, even like Hunt for the Wilder People, it has like a deeper story going on through it, but the comedy parts are so good. They're so well written. What We Do in the Shadows is one of my like all-time probably top 10 movies.
Yes, it's so awesome.
It's so good. It's just like, oh, so I really hope that they let him do more stuff, especially with the, I don't know, kind of after Ragnarok, or really after Guardians of the Galaxy came out, there was like a shift, right? And like, oh, we want to do all these cool, colorful, neat soundtrack movies with all these great visuals. And it's like, yeah, just give that to him. Let him go crazy. I mean, every scene in Ragnarok was so good and like so exciting, like visually exciting. When they're walking through the streets and like they're trying not to let Banner turn back into Hulk, like, oh my gosh, it's such a cool colored scene of everyone carrying their Hulk stuff and like, you know, powder bombs going off and stuff. Oh, I loved it. It's so good.
Mason was saying while we were watching, he's like, so many of these shots would make dope album covers.
Oh yeah. The whole movie was an album cover essentially. It's so good. I mean, and I think another strong point for this movie is that it's one of the first movies that leads directly to the next movie. It ends with all of Asgard climbing on this ship and taking off, and then boom, we'll move on to Infinity War, where it picks up immediately with that same ship sending out a distress signal as Thanos's mothership comes and they board. And this is where we witness Loki's end, if you will.
We can't talk about Loki's end yet because we still haven't talked about the Hulk smash.
Oh yeah. We totally skipped the Hulk smash.
Again.
We skipped the Hulk smash last week. Completely breezed over it. But in Avengers, one of the best moments is when Hulk grabs Loki and just slams him back and forth in the ground and then leaves him in a crater, essentially.
And one of the best theater reactions I've ever borne witness to.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Everyone was loud. It was perfect. And then we get to see a redo of that in Ragnarok, except this time it's Thor. And we get to see Loki get so excited that someone else is going through what he's already been through.
Yeah. Plus his flash of initial horror at seeing that it's Hulk. That's
Which is weird too. Like he's been there long enough, right? You'd think that maybe he would know
you'd
that
think,
Hulk was
but
there, but
maybe it's seasonal. It just
yeah.
got to be champion season. Thor just happened to drop in.
But it was really funny when as soon as it happens and he like jumps up, he's like, that's what it feels like. It's like, oh, somebody remembered something that happened and wrote it in there. It was almost like an Easter egg, but like a audible Easter egg, if you will.
That's how it feels.
Well, fast forwarding to the end or the beginning, I guess, we kind of get to see Loki's initial, or his this is his third death now, fourth death, third death.
Third.
So it seems pretty real.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, obviously it all kind of gets not retconned, but it all gets fixed by the end of Endgame. But initially, it seems like Loki actually dies, and Thor kind of loses it. We get to kind of see this emotional journey that he goes through where now he literally has lost everything. I mean, in Ragnarok, he loses his father. Well, let's see, in the Thor 2, Dark World, he loses his mother. Then he loses his father. And then he loses his brother and all of Asgard, essentially. Which is weird later on in the movie. I'm not really sure how it works because he talks multiple times about how, like, they only lost half of Asgard, and when we see him later in his little town, he says that those are all Asgardians, but it kind of looks like when the ship is destroyed, like there are no survivors from that ship. So
yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that it depicts Thanos before like having the Infinity Gauntlet as killing half of whatever population that he has, and so it has to be that the people that we see dead on the ship comprise half of the Asgardians that were on there, and then they would have been further decimated by the snap.
Oh, so like they halved them and then
halved them again.
Quartered them, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
It's got to be a rough life on Asgard.
Yeah. But this scene leading up to Loki's death is far and away Tom Hiddleston's strongest in the whole MCU. So good. Like I've got like a page and a half of notes just about this like 2 minutes scene. Just like wow, tremendous work, Tom.
Yeah, well, we get to see him, in Ragnarok we see a lot more like whimsical, fun Loki, and this movie we get to see like here's the Loki that we've been wanting, that cares about his family and is trying to protect the universe essentially. And, you do get that little moment where he talks about, he's like, oh, pick me if you're going to Earth and I can kind of show you around. I've been there. And you're like, oh, boo, Loki, don't switch sides. But then he makes the knife and you're like, oh, okay. So like Loki's on another good streak.
And he calls himself Odinson. So that's his signal to Thor that he's like, I got this. Shh.
Yeah.
This is sneakiness, but it's our sneakiness.
It is kind of a rough death for him that he just gets choked to death, essentially.
Choked with the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah. A big metal gauntlet's choking him out. But he is an Asgardian god, so I don't know. I mean, part of me thinks that maybe he didn't die, and even when I watched it, I was like, oh, he'll come back. Like, he didn't actually die. But then when he never does come back, it's kind of like, wow, maybe they did kill him off.
Yeah, like, I think he's dead.
Yeah.
Also, whenever we watched this in the theater, my husband leaned over to me and goes, are you okay? And I was like, he's fine. Because I knew in my heart it wasn't the last we would see of Loki. I didn't know exactly how it would work out, but I figured some kind of string would be pulled and we would get a Loki back. A Loki, not the Loki, because I thought he looks pretty dead.
Yeah.
But a Loki.
Well, I assumed he wasn't dead and he was going to pop back up later on, and he does, but it's not the dead Loki, it's the past Loki. But we'll get there. So we kind of get to see everyone struggling with how to stop Thanos in this movie, and just, I mean, there's no hope. He is overwhelmingly stronger than everyone that tries to fight him. And one by one gets the stones. There are some really cool scenes, like the entire scene when they're in nowhere is I think one of the best like twist scenes that I've seen in a while, where the whole time you think like, oh, okay, something's happening. As soon as Gamora stabs him, you're kind of like, wow, nah, it couldn't be that easy. But the fact that like all of that entire scene was fake because he's had the reality stone the whole time, you're like, woof, that is rough. I do think a missed moment is he shoves the collector in that little box, and as everything is turning into what the actual reality is, the collector's like standing there waving in the box. And like, I don't know, maybe it's too gruesome, but I kind of thought we'd see like a skeleton or his cloak or something in there to say like, oh, the collector's dead. But we don't, so maybe the collector's alive somewhere. I don't know.
No, they're not going to toss Benicio del Toro. They're going to use that weirdo as many times as they can. I mean the collector. I don't mean Benicio del Toro being the weirdo.
Well, it makes me think too, like we've seen so many other characters show up in the background of the collector's collection. We've seen Howard the Duck, we've seen Cosmo the dog, we've seen a couple dark elves. So it's, that when that happened, that was kind of like a wow, like, okay, so I don't really know how that works with the snap, because at the end of this movie, Thanos snaps his fingers and half of the population is wiped out. And then Endgame is all about them trying to reverse it, but really they reverse the snap. So all the people that Thanos killed before,
they're just dead. So that's why Loki didn't come back.
Right, which is another thing that I kept forgetting that that's what he was doing. And so when they brought everyone back, I thought like, oh, surely Loki's going to show up, but no, he doesn't show up. I mean, I guess we assume that nowhere is just destroyed. Same with Xandar. He talks about I think it's Infinity War. They talk about that. Yeah, he destroyed like half of Xandar. So I don't know. I mean, that's rough to think that even though they saved, half of the universe's population, they didn't save everybody that he killed. But we get to see a lot of cool changes for all the characters. There's definitely a shift going from Infinity War into Endgame, where we see, in the previous iterations of all these characters, it's all about being a better person, right? Being better than the enemy. Excuse me. Not in like you can punch harder or kick harder or anything, but just being better, like morally better. But now it's like the gloves are off. Like Thanos and his army comes through and they are killing Chitauri left and right. They're killing Thanos's, I think he calls them his children, but more like his generals, his army generals. In some of them die in like horrific ways. I mean, the one guy gets like launched into the shield and blows up. The lady gets held up in the air and run over by a big buzzsaw, basically. So there's definitely a shift of like, all right, now that they're not fighting people, they are opening up a little bit to being a little more violent with how they're portraying all these heroes.
That's for sure. I guess. I guess you gotta.
Yeah. I did think it was weird that when Captain America is fighting, they gave him his little hand shields, but he's in Wakanda, where they made the first shield, right? Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't they have just made him a new shield?
There was no time.
I mean, true, yeah. It was very last second, but I don't know. Bucky's there. Maybe he could have been like, hey, can you make my friend a new shield?
Cap also had one of the cosmetic changes that I wish had been permanent when he had the beard in this movie. I was like, that's a good look for him. He should have kept the beard. It's gone in Endgame. And I was so angry that they got rid of Thor's eye patch. I was about the eye patch at the end of Ragnarok. That was so cool. And then they're like, oh, we can put in this fake eyeball that does stuff.
Yeah, which seemed like a cop out to be like, we don't want to keep having to glue this eye patch on you, so
absolutely
we'll just be like, oh yeah, they replaced his eye. Yeah, I liked Cap's beard too, and I liked his new suit, where like the star is blacked out and all of the suit is kind of blacked out. Is that my cat? But I kind of liked that, where it's like, okay, he's turned his back on being Captain America as far as like Captain America goes, and now he's
Captain Steve.
Yes, yeah, Captain Rogers is here to save the day. It was fun to see Bucky and Falcon and all the interactions that they had, having just finished Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It was like, oh, this is crazy. Like, I forgot that they had so many moments together in the movies. I kind of just remembered them like, yeah, I remember they were both in it, and maybe they like talked to each other once, but I mean, there are multiple occasions where they have full-on interactions with each other, where I was like, oh yeah, like you guys are gonna be friends. Don't worry. So that was fun to see. I guess we'll move into Endgame. We kind of get the cast grows again. We've already kind of seen more people show up by the end of Infinity War. And then, right off the bat for Endgame, we start adding characters in. And it's just like, wow, I mean, you guys weren't kidding. Like, you were putting everyone that you've ever even kind of mentioned into this movie. And then some, with the addition of Captain Marvel, which I can't remember. Did Captain Marvel come out before Endgame?
Yeah, I think it came out between Infinity War and Endgame.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we did see her before, but I like that she came back. I like that we get to see like this bummy Thor, like just upset. We definitely see
on Fortnite.
Yeah. We definitely see angry Thor at the beginning of the movie.
He in Infinity War, he almost kills Thanos with Stormbreaker. Mm-hmm. And then Thanos says you should have gone for the head, and at the beginning of Endgame, he sure enough does.
Oh yeah, he remembers that he should have gone for the head. So that was kind of interesting to see Thor almost take revenge. But I think that it fits well with Thor's character, right? Kind of like you said, he has that dumb guy energy, and like not necessarily in a bad way, but it's just like he doesn't, in his mind, like he's angry. Thanos took away his entire family, everything he knows. Thanos wiped out. He wants to kill Thanos, and now that the stones are gone, he just assumes, what's the point then? I'm going to kill him. And he kills him. And it was kind of like a turning moment where you're like, wow. I mean, Thor kind of snapped. Yeah. And we see that again when we see him in his little town, where now he has like kind of a beer gut. He's letting his hair grow crazy. He's just sitting around watching Korg and I can't remember the little bug guy's name.
Me.
Yeah. Watching them play video games, yelling at kids on Fortnite. And you're just like, wow, Thor really lost it. I mean, he completely changed from being Thor to being this like weird slobby the dude guy. But it is fun to see him kind of alter that course, especially once they realize, oh my gosh, like we can fix this. We can go back in time, thanks to Scott Lang coming out of the quantum realm, which like good thing that mouse was there, right? To step on the
Right.
button. I mean, what would that movie have been if that mouse didn't show up? Um,
There was something that I saw that said the reason why there were so many outcomes where they lost or didn't achieve what they wanted to was because the mouse had to key in the exact code to open up the quantum realm, and it only happened the one time.
I mean, hey, I like that. I think that that's a good way to think about it, because honestly, I didn't even think of that when he says there are so many, there's like 40 billion, fact check how many times there are, but it only happens the one time. So he talks about how many times that it didn't happen, and in my mind it was just like, they tried a bunch of stuff and it never worked out. But it is interesting to think like, yeah, if Scott hadn't come back from the quantum realm, there would have been no one to tell anyone about the quantum realm, so no one would have known. So that is a really cool way to think of that. That yeah, that mouse did have to step on just the right buttons to release him. But once they kind of learn they get to go back in time, you definitely see a shift in everyone's attitude, where it went from everyone being super defeated to like, okay, now there's a little glimmer of hope. And we get to kind of go back into a couple of the past movies, which was a lot of fun. And this is where we get to see Loki again, and kind of where we think the Loki series is going to pick up. I mean, I don't know how it's going to work with this timeline, right? Is where Loki vanishes with the Tesseract, right? And they're not really there for that. They're there for the staff, so they get the staff.
I mean, they have to get the Tesseract. He ruins everything by taking the Tesseract.
Right. So I wonder, like, okay, when Steve goes back, like fast forward to the end, Steve goes back with all the stones to put them back in the right places. I want to know how that's going to affect the Loki show, because they kind of explain it in Endgame that when they go back and take all the stones, they're creating all these branch timelines. And from what we know about the Loki show, he's essentially put in time jail for messing up the timeline. So if we assume time jail is at the edge of where time ends, then that means there are already these branch. So like even when Steve goes back and puts all the stones back, there have to still be these like branch timelines.
Yeah, he winds up being married to Peggy, and we know from other things she had married somebody totally different.
Right.
And like moved on with her life. So like, how does he do that? Does he set up a new timeline and cross over with the Tesseract or one of the stones? We don't know.
Right.
Why isn't Cap in time jail?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's my point, is that there are all these branch timelines, and that's the problem. So if Loki's going to time jail for being out of a branch timeline, Cap also is created this branch timeline that somehow everyone is a part of. But I mean, where was Cap for the Avengers? Where was Cap for any of the Avengers movies? Like I was almost said Avengers 2, but yes, any of the Avengers movies, they have Captain America who came out of the ice. So if Cap goes back in time and marries Peggy, are there two Captain Americas?
And one's just kind of laying low?
Yeah, like one's in ice and the other one is a stay-at-home husband. And like, do they have kids? Is there baby Cap and Peggy kids out there somewhere?
How mad is Sharon?
Yeah. Well, yeah, what happened to Sharon?
Also, this is another instance where Loki morphs into Cap for a second in Endgame. Whenever he's making fun of him.
Sharon is
Peggy's great niece.
Peggy's great niece, which would mean Peggy would have to have kids, right?
Well, she would have to have probably a
Siblings?
brother, yeah,
Okay.
since Sharon's last name is Carter too, so I'm guessing that it's Peggy's brother is her grandpa.
Okay.
Or her dad. I mean, she never calls her great aunt, I don't guess. I was just figuring because of their age difference that
Right.
Peggy had to be her great aunt instead of her regular aunt.
So then, yeah, so Cap staying back in time really messes things up.
Yeah,
for
unless he
everybody.
creates like a different, like totally different time branch, and again, should be getting picked up by the time authorities because that is
Right.
against the law.
Exactly. So maybe that is a good thought of what happens. Maybe Loki changes into Captain America for something to get help or to like get through a checkpoint or something. He takes on the appearance of Captain America, and that's what gets him caught by the time police. And then he gets there and he's like, no, I'm Loki. And they're like,
Okay, we'll bring you in too.
yeah, it doesn't matter. You're in jail. So I don't know. That's a good, I could see it. Something did happen in this movie that was kind of a fact check from a couple weeks ago, I think, where we were talking about, oh no, I guess it was from last week. We were talking about Pepper Potts and
Yes.
does she help in the big fight? And she does. She comes in with her protector suit on. She helps everybody. So that threw my fact check out. I was a terrible fact checker last week because that threw my fact check out about Morgan, because now Morgan can't be the protector because we already have a protector. She can't be Ironheart. That's Riri Williams. So I think she's just going to be Morgan Stark. But I feel like I saw an article. I don't know.
Well, we've had 2 Captain Americas at this point. There's no reason why
true.
Morgan can't do the thing. I mean, she's just little right now.
Yeah. She could definitely take the mantle. And I don't know. I think that's kind of what all of this is moving towards. We're going to start seeing more Young Avengers stuff coming, especially with these series, the Disney series coming out, because now we have Elijah. We have, I keep wanting to call her Kate, but her name isn't Kate in the Marvel movies. Hawkeye's daughter.
But it's not his daughter that he's training up. Like in his show that we should be getting, I guess, next year, it is Kate Bishop.
It is Kate Bishop? Okay.
Yeah, and she's being played by Haley Steinfeld.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, then I wonder what they're going to do with that too then. Like, they kind of teased Kate Bishop by showing him teaching his daughter how to shoot, and she had a purple shirt on, I believe, if I remember correctly. So I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of ways, but now we have all these timelines, so it doesn't matter. They could literally do whatever they want, and there's
nothing
it could be
anymore.
explained away. Yeah. Not that I'm not excited for it. So after seeing these 3 kind of bigger, I mean, definitely bigger movies. I mean, it's literally one movie to the next in the whole saga that we've kind of been building up to, with all 12 movies, 13 movies. So what are your thoughts on, I guess, the series as a whole, if you were to think about all the movies and where they started versus where they ended?
Well, first of all, like, what an undertaking. I can't think of another franchise that has done anything even remotely in the ballpark of what they've done with the MCU. Like, it's really impressive to me that they have not only had all these converging storylines, all these characters, and all these very, very well cast actors, just like nailed it time after time, but also that they've maintained like really high quality. Like, I know that we talked about how we're going to share like which ones we think are worst maybe next week. But even the ones that are on my list that I said are like the worst ones, they're still not bad. Mm-hmm. Like, none of them are bad, and most of them are really, really quite good, very good, or at the very least enjoyable. Like, it kind of blows my mind whenever I think about how many things had to come together to make this, with the occasional blip, like, Terrence Howard and Ed Norton. And then for it to culminate in a movie like Endgame that got such an awesome response from audiences and, particularly from me. Like, I really, really, really enjoyed watching Infinity War and Endgame. I can't think of two more movies that I have anticipated more than those two. So, yeah. I was a big fan of all of it, start to finish, which we'll talk about more whenever we talk about favorites and not favorites.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that next week. But I agree that I think the least favorite movies were still fun movies. For me, a lot of them were my least favorite because, like, they were on my least favorite list because they didn't necessarily need to be tied to the bigger story, which, like you said, I mean, what an undertaking to not do like a trilogy and try to cram all of this information into 3 or 4 movies or even 6 movies. I mean, they went above and beyond, creating this huge universe with all these characters and seamlessly pulling them all together. I will say my only gripe for Endgame, because it is a pretty good movie considering everything that led up to it and how many people they cram into that movie. My only gripe is Mjolnir is a hammer that only worthy people can pick up. That's it. When Cap wields Mjolnir, he is not only able to electrify it, but also bring down a lightning bolt from the sky with it. When did he become Captain America, God of Thunder?
But that's what it says, is whoever wields Mjolnir is given the power of Thor. That's what Odin whispers to it in the first movie.
I mean, yes. 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 Okay. Yes. But if that's the case, then how does Thor... Well, I guess he's Thor.
Yeah. And he does have Stormbreaker, which is another powerful weapon. Although, my husband has a different gripe, which is that if Cap can wield Mjolnir, there's no way that Spider-Man shouldn't be able to as well. Because he's like, if there's a kid who's pure of heart, it's Peter Parker.
That's true.
He's got to be worthy.
That's true. But I guess he never really tries to pick it up. The only time he uses it is to fly away. So, like, maybe he still could wield it.
Maybe. I mean, it doesn't, like, down whenever he has it or whenever he's being pulled by it.
All right. Well, I rescind my gripe then. Because that was when that happened. I was like, hold on, wait a second. Why is Cap wielding thunder and lightning? Like, okay, all right. I guess that makes more sense. Then yes, if he gets all the powers of Thor with the hammer,
but
why
also,
wasn't he flying?
That scene is so good. I can't imagine having even questioned it, because
it is really
like,
good.
Wow, yay!
It is very cool, and it's fun to see him like basically pin Thanos to the ground with this giant lightning bolt.
Yeah, it's another one of the really, really good like character moments that we get between these two movies. Another one that happens really, I think a few minutes after this, is whenever they have like the entire like lady squad get together to try to carry the Infinity Gauntlet. I thought that was great, but whenever I was talking to another girl in class after the movie came out, we were all just like, together talking about how good it was. She said that whenever it happened, she started bawling her eyes out in the theater.
It was like a fun moment that gave me like chills because it was such like a cool, powerful moment. But Captain Marvel literally flew through a giant ship multiple times. I don't know that she necessarily needed their help to fly from one end of this battlefield to the other, but it was very cool moment. Yes, I really enjoyed it.
That's another one of Mason's gripes, is because he says, when you've got Wanda and Captain Marvel, it should all be over. Like, those two alone could have probably taken out Thanos.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like it is weird because it seems like they dumbed down Wanda's powers a little bit for this final fight, or really in both of these movies. I mean, both times we see her wield her powers, they're strong, but they're not as strong as she really is.
No. But now
So,
she's, the full Scarlet Witch we saw in the TV show. So maybe
right.
we'll see some more of it in Multiverse of Madness. I hope so.
True. But now I feel like we're getting to that scary territory, though, of I don't know if you watched Dragon Ball Z when you were younger, but
No.
okay, well, the problem with Dragon Ball Z is that Goku is always so strong that they have to come in with like a stronger villain, and then he beats that villain by going like crazy strong, and then they bring in a stronger villain, and so it's like at some point you're like, I mean, the dude can like blow up a planet by flicking it. How could there be someone stronger than that? So I think it is a dangerous game to make Wanda earth-shatteringly powerful and then trying to introduce somebody that's stronger than Thanos when they showed that it basically took every single person in the MCU so far just to even hold him back, not to kill him or beat him, but just to hold him back long enough for them to basically trick him out of the stones at the end. So it's kind of hard to think of somebody more powerful than that. So I am interested in who the next big bad is going to be in the MCU. Or
Yeah, I know a lot of people are thinking that it should be Doctor Doom or Mephisto or something like that, but we'll have to see.
yeah, I think it'll be good too to add some more people to maybe make it like not a world, like maybe make Galactus the next like world ending entity, but for now stick with some of the smaller ones like Mephisto or like Doctor Doom, where they're like the mid-tier bad guys. Yeah, where you can pull in some more new people and have the new people be like, this is who we're fighting right now. But it's not like, oh yeah, all we have to do is call Carol Danvers and she'll show up and punch the guy's head off and we win. So
bye.
Well, all right. So next week we are going to go over each of our top 5 favorite movies and bottom 5 least favorite movies.
We made love lists.
Yes, yeah. So we'll kind of go through those and figure out, who liked what, who didn't like what, and for what reason. And then, I mean, what do we have? I can never remember. I need to put a sign up that says how many weeks left for Loki, but we're down to 3 weeks.
No, I think that next week might be our last one. No, we've got 2 more episodes before Loki, I think.
Okay.
I'm having to do math, and I'm really bad at math. Forgive me.
No, you're fine. Me too. That's why I never remember. But yeah, I think we do. I think we have 2 more weeks, and then the 3rd week will be the first Wednesday. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if they're going to do any like pre-episode stuff. I know they've been releasing more like mini trailers and little bits.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff come out this week. There was a cover story in Entertainment Weekly that had a really interesting interview with Tom Hiddleston about his time in the MCU. I recommend everybody read that. It was really great. Yeah, we're gonna get bombarded with Loki stuff, and we got like a little trailer this past week. I think it was just a TV spot, but it was pretty interesting. It gave us more of a glimpse into the TVA. We got to meet Miss Minutes. That was fun.
Yes. Oh my gosh. As by the end of that little teaser, Miss Minutes was instantly on my probably top 5 Marvel side characters. I love little things like that, like in the Fallout games, the little Pip-Boy, like all of those just like fun little old-timey cartoon characters that like pop up in shows. Oh, they're so great.
I think I'm jealous of Miss Minutes because she's got the southern accent I wish I had.
I really hope that she's like the Time Police's Jarvis or Friday. That like maybe she just like pops up all over the place, a little Miss Minutes, to tell Loki like, hey, here's your next assignment, go to this time, do this. Like, oh man, that'd be great.
And at worst, she could be the TVA's Clippy and just give all sorts of annoying tips on how to do the thing you already know.
That would be great. I definitely need more Miss Minutes.
This trailer has also made me even stronger in my belief that this is basically Doctor Who. Like,
Yeah.
they're even at like the part where they shoot him with a gun and it takes all of his clothes off. That's a thing on Doctor Who.
Well, I'm interested in, maybe this is something we can either throw in the fact check or look up to talk about next week, but maybe a little bit more about the director and the writer for this series, because maybe they are big Doctor Who fans and they're taking that into consideration as maybe like a little nod to other Doctor Who fans.
I know that Kate Herron is British, so it's possible.
All right.
So,
We'll have to
all these things up.
deep dive into that. But join us next week and we'll go over our top 5 and bottom 5 and keep that countdown clock ticking. 2 more weeks or 3 more weeks, however you want to look at it. Mm-hmm. It'll be on a Wednesday. So we will see you all next week.
Bye.
Hello, fellow agents and listeners. This is Luke checking in. I'm going to be doing some fact checking. So first up on my list is from Thor Ragnarok, the Champion's Tower. If you look at this tower, you're going to see the faces of previous champions, but is one of those Thanos? Well, turns out it is not Thanos. So if you look at the Champion's Tower from the top down, you have Man-Thing at the top. On the left, you have Beta Ray Bill. On the right, you have Ares. The bottom right, you have Bi-Beast. The bottom, you have Fin Fang Foom, and the bottom left you have the Night Crawler, who's also known as the Dark Crawler from Earth 616. It is actually Bi-Beast who kind of resembles Thanos. All right, next up on my list is the Get Help scene from Thor Ragnarok. We are curious what the original plans for the scene were, but unfortunately I was unable to find what the original plans were, but I did find a great article and video off of Digital Spy where you get the breakdown of how the scene was made. It's really fun. Just get on the internet, search for Get Help Scene Digital Spy. You should be able to find it. All right, next up is for Mjolnir. So what is the actual power of this hammer and what gets carried over to the various wielders? Well, there are so many things that this hammer can do. And what's crazy is that we haven't really seen everything in the films. I'm really hoping they will dive deeper into the capabilities of the hammer in the next Thor film. But essentially, whoever is worthy enough to wield the hammer should be able to control all the powers. You know, the main thing is controlling the weather, which includes lightning. You can also fly with the hammer if it's spun and releases that power. But to break down who all has actually wielded the hammer, we have Roger Red Norvell, you have Beta Ray Bill, Captain America, Eric Masterson, you have Bor, who is Thor's grandfather, Buri, who is the great-grandfather of Thor, Loki at some point has also wielded the hammer, Jane Foster, the Destroyer, Black Panther, Eddie Brock was able to wield the hammer, but he had help from the Enigma Force, and in a crossover special, Superman was able to wield the hammer, who needed it in just a time where he really needed it. All right, so moving on, let's talk about Captain America for a second. Now, Captain America at the end of Endgame, he goes back to return the stones, but what we want to know is, did this create an alternate timeline in any way? It looks out that there is a lot of arguments between the Russo brothers whether he broke a timeline or not, but I think there's one thing we really need to pay attention to, and that is what happens in 2012. So when Captain America goes back to return the stones, if you look at the Space Stone, he's actually going back to return this at the military base in 1970. But what seems like he probably did not do was go back and fix the event that happened in 2012 during the time heist. So I think that's really what's going to lead into the Loki series, and that's what we're going to pay attention to is what happens after Loki gets the Space Stone and disappears in the 2012 time heist from Endgame. All right, so moving down the list, let's look at the relation dynamics between Peggy and Sharon Carter. So I got this off of the MCU wiki. So Peggy Carter has one sibling. She has a brother who is Michael Carter. If you look down the family timeline, Michael Carter is actually Sharon Carter is Michael Carter's granddaughter, but Sharon Carter is Peggy's niece. Peggy is actually the great aunt of Sharon Carter. So this family dynamic is really crazy because I know the big thing is, if you look at Steve Rogers and his relationship with Sharon and Peggy, it gets a little crazy. But he was not informed of the family dynamics when all of that happened. But that is the family breakdown there. So thank you so much for checking in on these fact checked items. Just a reminder that Loki will start streaming on Disney Plus Wednesday, June 9th, 2021. We are looking forward to talking about Loki. Look forward to seeing all of our fans' reactions to it. Thank you so much for listening. This is Luke reporting out.